Hello, everyone. I'm a little under the weather. I have the flu, but I thought it would be important to get this message out to you in real time because I'm experiencing a lot of serendipity at this moment. If you are on the Move Abroad journey, hopefully you've come across my channel where I talk about different aspects about moving abroad, the visa process, healthcare abroad, finding a home abroad, the legal implications of once you leave the US, what do you have to remain compliant in the US regarding all those sorts of things is what I try to discuss on the channel. Now, the title of this video is Moving Abroad Takes Courage, but it's also one of the most practical things you could do, especially if you're of the younger generation. If you've been following my channel, you saw a year ago that I purchased a home in Italy, close to Pescara, which is on the eastern coast of Italy, on the Adriatic coast. And I purchased it for less than 50,000 US dollars. And many people have this romantic notion of Italy, and absolutely, Italy is beautiful. The people are extraordinary, the food, the culture, the scenery, absolutely stunning. However, purchasing in Italy is one of the most practical things I've ever done. And that's because buying a home in the United States was cost prohibitive, totally unaffordable for me and many Americans. And so I had the desire to purchase a home. And I was met with the cost of homes, especially in New York, because I'm originally from the US, New York. And the prices are astronomical, with me also having student loan debt in the six figures. So I'm confronted with the reality of I'm in my career, I'm working, I want to purchase a home, but I have my student loan debt, which is essentially a mortgage payment. How am I going to take on another secondary mortgage payment of buying a home? And by the end of everything, if I bought a house in New York, I would owe my student loans and a mortgage would be close to $1 million. And that is not debt that I was willing to take on. And so saving and buying a house cash was the most practical thing for me. So I worked 10, 12 hours a day, saved every dollar to be able to purchase in Italy. Now, the house needs work. If you look at my other videos, you'll see the structures are good. The walls, the roof that doesn't need to be renovated, but new bathroom, new kitchen, change the floors, new pipes, those that has to be done. But it's still cheaper than if I purchased in the US. And so it was a practical step, it was a practical measure for me and my family. Yes, there's a romantic notion of it. Like I said, it is Italy, but it was absolutely practical. And so if you are watching this and you are trying to figure out your future and perhaps you're thinking about moving abroad, it is a practical thing to do because essentially there's nothing left for us in the US. Healthcare is astronomical. If you saw another video I did on TikTok, I think I shared it on YouTube as well, where I spoke about when I made the decision years ago to cancel my health insurance because I was quoted at something like $4,000 or $3,000 a month as a solo practitioner. Absolutely cost prohibitive. So many other people weighed in regarding the health insurance debacle, that health insurance is unaffordable. And they shared what they were paying. A family of four paying $6,000, $7,000 per month before they even go to the doctor. So health insurance is unaffordable. Housing is unaffordable. The food prices has now become astronomical and the quality has diminished. Essentially, they're poisoning us every single day, and we have no choice because we need to eat to live. The water supply. So the degradation of the US is compounded. And so just so I could breathe, I made the choice to move abroad and buy a property abroad. And I thought about my older self when I'm in my 60s and my 70s, and I can no longer work like I can in my 30s and my 40s. Where would I lay my head? Where would I lay my head? What am I going to do? Pay rent $5,000 a month for a delinquent landlord who doesn't care to fix anything, who just keeps raising the rent prices year after year after year? Essentially, there was no reprieve for me, I saw. And so it was essential that I started to make a plan to leave the US. And it wasn't a quick plan. It took several years to get things in place, and the world changed after COVID, and a lot of opportunities opened up for Americans to get a visa, digital nomad visas, to be able to relocate to different country. And that's the trajectory I took. I'm just looking down at my notes. And so back to the theme of moving abroad takes courage is to know that there will be some uncertainty in the journey, but it is a practical thing. Many will think it's you escaping the US, but what's wrong with that? It's also you preparing for your future. Now, there will be steps that you have to take. You have to do due diligence. You have to do measures regarding the visa process to see if you fit into the visa requirements for different countries, the cost of living, the lifestyle, your financial realities. You do have to do research. You have to make your life in the US a little smaller in order to monkey vine to the country that you're moving to. That takes time. But once you figure out your needs and your financial limits, it fits together with like a Venn diagram of what you need in the country you're moving abroad to. So it's a relationship. It's a fluid relationship. It's not just one thing. It has to fit together to fit your life. And then eventually you have to pull the trigger. But what I will say, the pull the trigger is not what that looks like for everybody is not the same, which I'm seeing as more people move abroad. Some people, they pack up their family, they get on an airplane, and they're able to land because they have the resources. For others, they leave perhaps a spouse behind who's still working, who's still funding the life of their family in the new country. For me, it was purchasing a home in Italy before I even had residency. I purchased the home and said, I will purchase this home and then figure out the residency requirements after. So my journey was a little different. And there's several reasons why I purchased the home. Like I said earlier, the dream of owning a home and being able to lay my head to rest as I get older was a very important priority for me because it was chipped away at the US, but it was possible in Italy. That's why I did it this way. And I said I will focus on the visa process after. And it has fallen into place. And I'll share what has happened up until now. So the home that I purchased needs renovating, right? So I came to Italy to oversee the renovations, or so I thought. Um, After I purchased at the end of 2024, the law firm that I was working with, the Italian law firm that I was working with, provided post closing services, which involved finding an architect and finding contractors or professionals to help with the renovation. So the law firm helped me find an architect, but it turned out that architect was not suitable for the area that I lived. And I had to find a new architect. This was unbeknownst to me when I landed in Italy a few days ago. So if we rewind to Ash Wednesday, I flew out of JFK Airport the day before Ash Wednesday and landed in Switzerland and was met by a customs officer who asked me, why are you going to Italy again? Like, do you have family there? Why are you staying so long? I said, no, actually, I bought a home there and I'm going to see about the renovation. He was quite shocked and he could not understand why I was going to Italy, which I thought was interesting. When I finally landed in Italy, I arranged with my Airbnb host if he knew a driver to drive from the Rome airport to Pescara, which is about a 2.5, 3 hour drive. He volunteered who I thought was his uncle to pick me up because he texted me, my uncle could do it. He's retired. And if you need transport assistance in Pescara, he's more than happy to help you. He picked us up, kind as ever could be, and we begin on the journey and we start chatting. And he says, "Oh, so why are you here?" And I said, "I have a visa. I have to go to the police station within 8 days in order to register as a resident." And he says, "Police station?" I said, "Yeah, they told me the police station." He said, "No, no police station, questura." And then he starts making phone calls. He starts calling this person, starts calling this person, say this American just landed. She has to get a resident permit. And he starts making whatever arrangements. And then he says, "Okay, in 2 days on Friday, I will take you to the questura. This is what you need, and we will do your resident permit." This is in the beginning of the journey. We're about 1 hour in. Then I said, "Well, I'm renovating a house as well, and I have an architect, and I don't have any workers." He says, "Where's the house?" I show him where the house is. And this is why he's driving down the road. He's looking on the map. He says, "Oh, okay, I know this area." But he's like, "But why this region? Why Torre de Passeri? Why?" I said, "Because the price was good and the house is beautiful." He could not understand why I would choose to move, why an American would choose to relocate to this region. And this town, I think it has like 2,300 inhabitants. It used to have 10,000. He could not understand why anyone would want to live there. But once he saw the house, he's like, the panoramic views, it's beautiful. The house is beautiful. Then he started to understand. Then I started to explain to him the life in the US is very difficult and expensive. I said, health insurance is astronomical. The house prices are ridiculous, and a lot of them are ugly. So that didn't leave me a lot of options in terms of quality of life. So I had to move, think about buying property abroad. So he finds this fascinating. So we continue, and he says, he calls his friends. They meet us at the house. Now, I thought he was going to take us to the Airbnb. He takes us straight to the house where we're met with an electrician, contractor, and someone else. They met us there. This is now 6, 7 o'clock at night. And they start with the flashlights looking around the house that they could do this, they could do that. He knows these men because they've done previous work with them. They're legitimate. And I felt such relief that I took the step and God took 2 steps toward me, that these men will help me with my project and tell me what I needed to do. And so today I had another meeting with another architect that he found, because remember I told you that the previous architect was not suitable. So this architect came, he will give me a plan of where to begin. So all of this converged in a sort of serendipitous moment that I didn't imagine, but it took courage even just for me to land here and to trust this man. And that's why if you are on the move abroad journey, it will involve courage. And courage is not one size fits all, and it is not one and done. At every step, it's going to take courage, and you're going to have to muster up different courage depending on the circumstances. So now I'm renovating a house and I know nothing about construction. That's another act of courage that I met with. I'm having to pay in cash because I'm funding this cash, no credit. So that's another act of courage. And so if you're a young person listening to this, it can be done, and it's practical, because as they chip away at our futures in the United States, we deserve to have a future with stability and security. And that may be outside of the US. And that's the decision that you have to make. And you have to know what you need. So to follow me, I will be documenting my journey with the renovation tomorrow. Apparently, I'm supposed to go look at toilets and plumbing stuff. That's what Massimo told me. And so I have a course that prepares people on the Move Abroad journey, not only discussing the visa process, but also tax compliance, because you do have to remain compliant with US obligations, how to access healthcare, how to deal with international healthcare, estate planning, because if you buy property abroad, you want to be aware of doing appropriate estate planning for your foreign properties. Owning a foreign business abroad also requires a certain level of tax reporting. And you want to also make sure you're meeting your obligation of severing state ties, especially if you're in a tax state like New York or California. You want to be aware of how to sever your relationship with that state so that you pay less in taxes. So I walk you through this in my Move Abroad course, and there's even some bonus modules if you're moving abroad and you have a disability, or if you have a family member that has a disability. There's some countries that are more appropriate for moving abroad with a person who has a disability. Um, it's a really rich course. If you don't know where to begin, that's a good place to start. I will link it in the description box. Also, I do want to mention that I recently released a book in the end of 2025. It's called Chaos to Clarity, and it walks you through estate planning for people who think they don't need it. And this book is really for, especially for people who are moving abroad, to think about getting their ducks in order before they take a leap. Moving abroad has a lot of moving parts, and it's hard to have a system that lays out what you need to do before you move abroad. And I've laid it out in this book. It's available on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. So if you're interested in any of those um, resources, they will be linked in the description box. Let me know if you have any questions regarding the move abroad. I will be sure to update you regarding the contractors and the new steps that I take. And if you were curious about this region of Italy, it's Pescara. Again, it's on the eastern seaboard. I'm more than happy to speak with you and consult with you if you are interested. I will see you next time. Thanks again. I'm going to go rest my voice. Stop. That was good.